I never wanted the spotlight. That was my first mistake. In a world of tech bros who'd sooner die than miss a chance to announce their brilliance to a room, I was the anomaly, the woman who actually preferred to let her code speak for itself. My name is Emily Warren. I'm 34, have been coding since I was 12, and until recently, I was the senior backend developer at Pinnacle Core Solutions in Austin, Texas. If you work in small business finance, you might know us. We're the payment processing platform that revolutionized transaction handling for small to medium enterprises. At least, that's what our marketing materials claimed. The reality: our backend was a spaghetti nightmare of legacy code that somehow, miraculously, hadn't completely collapsed until it nearly did. I should start at the beginning. Not the very beginning, you don't need my life story, but 8 months ago, when Jason, our CTO, quit without notice. He'd been fighting with the board for months about technical debt, and they wouldn't listen. Classic story. The day he left, he sent me a message. It's all going to fall apart. Get out while you can. I should have listened. Instead, I stayed, partly out of loyalty to the engineering team that would be left holding the bag, and partly because, well, I'm not a quitter. Never have been. My mother didn't raise me that way. After Jason left, the board hired Kyle Whitaker as our new product manager, tasking him with righting the ship. Kyle was everything I wasn't: loud, charismatic, political. He had no technical background but talked like he invented the internet. Within a week, he'd charmed everyone from the CEO to the janitorial staff. Everyone except me. During his first all-hands meeting, Kyle stood at the front of the room in his perfectly tailored blue suit, white teeth gleaming under the fluorescent lights. "We're going to turn this company around," he announced, scanning the room with the practiced gaze of someone who'd read too many leadership books. "We're going to innovate our way out of this mess." His eyes landed on me, sitting quietly in the back corner, laptop open. "Emily, right? Jason mentioned you were one of our strongest engineers." I nodded once, uncomfortable with the sudden attention. "Great, I'll need your help making sense of our current architecture." That night, I stayed late, preparing a detailed overview of our system, the good, the bad, and the ugly. I spent hours creating diagrams, writing explanations in plain English, and listing our most critical vulnerabilities. The next morning, I sent it to Kyle, expecting a meeting invitation to discuss. 3 days passed, nothing. When I finally caught him in the break room, he was laughing with 2 of the sales directors. "Hey, Kyle," I said. "Did you get my email about the system architecture?" He blinked, then his face shifted into a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Oh, right, great work. Emily. Very thorough. I'm still digesting it. I think we should talk about the payment processing module. Let's put a pin in that," he interrupted, already turning back to the sales directors. "I'll set something up soon." That soon never came. A week later, we lost Anderson Retail, our second largest client. Their payment processing had failed during a high-volume sales event, costing them an estimated $120,000 in lost revenue. Exactly the vulnerability I'd highlighted in my report. The company panicked. Emergency meetings were called. Kyle stood before the board and solemnly announced, "Our infrastructure needs a complete overhaul. This is exactly what I've been saying since I arrived." I sat in the back of the room. My hands clenched so tightly my nails left half-moon imprints in my palms. He never once mentioned my report. After the meeting, I approached him directly. "Kyle, I outlined this exact issue in the document I sent you. If we'd addressed it last week—" "Emily." He cut me off, voice low. "This isn't the time for finger-pointing. We need solutions, not blame." Something in his eyes told me this was a warning. Play along or be labeled a problem. That night, I couldn't sleep. Our entire system was balanced on a knife's edge. Another failure like Anderson would sink us. And nobody at the executive level seemed to truly understand what we were dealing with. So I made a decision. I would rebuild our backend. Not because the company deserved it, but because I couldn't stand watching something I'd helped build collapse due to willful ignorance. For the next 2 months, I lived a double life. During the day, I maintained the existing system, putting out fires and attending pointless meetings where Kyle talked in circles about innovation roadmaps. At night, I rebuilt our platform from the ground up. I called it Hydra. It was elegant, scalable, and solved all the critical issues that had been plaguing us. I incorporated every best practice I'd learned over my 12-year career. I poured my soul into that code. My routine became mechanical. Wake up at 5 a.m., code until 8. Go to the office. Pretend to care about Kyle's latest visionary idea. Come home. Code until midnight. Repeat. My apartment became a cave of empty coffee cups and takeout containers. My cat? Merge conflict. Yes, I'm that kind of nerd. Would sit on my lap as I worked, occasionally pawing at my hands as if to say, enough already. But I couldn't stop. With each line of code, Hydra became more than just a project, it became my vindication. After 2 months of barely sleeping, I had a working prototype. I tested it against our highest volume scenarios, and it performed flawlessly. The processing speed was 10 times faster than our current system. The error rate dropped to near zero. It was time to present it. I scheduled a meeting with the engineering team first. They were skeptical. They'd heard promises of fixes before, but when I demonstrated Hydra's capabilities, the room transformed. Questions flew. Excitement built. For the first time in months, there was hope. This is incredible, Emily, said Priya, our front-end lead. How long have you been working on this? A while, I said, unwilling to admit just how much of my life I'd sacrificed. We need to show this to management immediately, said Derek, another senior engineer. This could save us. I nodded, trying to ignore the anxiety building in my chest. I'll talk to Kyle. Finding Kyle alone was never easy. He always seemed to be surrounded by an audience. I finally cornered him after a department meeting. I have something you need to see, I said, keeping my voice level. I've built a replacement for our back-end system. It solves all the issues we've been having. Kyle's expression shifted from annoyance to interest. You built an entire system by yourself. I nodded. When could you demo this? Whenever you want. It's ready. He studied me for a moment, then smiled. This is exactly the kind of initiative we need. Emily, let's set up a meeting for tomorrow morning. Just you, me, and Rebecca from product design. If it looks good, we'll take it to the executive team. For the first time since he'd joined the company, I felt a glimmer of respect from Kyle. Maybe I'd misjudged him. I spent that night preparing the demo, making sure every detail was perfect. This wasn't just about saving the company anymore, it was about proving my worth. The next morning, I arrived early, set up in the small conference room, and waited. 10 minutes passed, then 20. At the 30-minute mark, I texted Kyle. Running late, start without me. Rebecca is on her way, he replied. Rebecca arrived moments later, apologizing for the delay. I walked her through Hydra, explaining the architecture, the improvements, the potential for future expansion. She asked insightful questions that I was happy to answer. This is remarkable, Emily, she said when I finished. Truly, this solves so many of our problems. Just as I was wrapping up, Kyle finally appeared, slightly out of breath. Sorry, got caught up with the CEO. How did it go? It's amazing, Rebecca said. Emily's built something that could completely transform our platform. Kyle nodded, his eyes fixed on my screen. Walk me through it again. I did, watching as he took meticulous notes, asking questions that showed he was actually paying attention to the technical details for once. This is exactly what we need, he said when I finished. Emily, I want you to present this to the executive team and our major investors tomorrow. My stomach dropped. Public speaking was not my forte. Couldn't you present it? You'd be better at... No, he insisted. This is your baby. You should be the one to introduce it to the world. I wanted to believe he was being genuine, that he was finally acknowledging my contribution. But something felt off. If you're nervous, he added, we can prep together tonight. I'll help you frame the presentation in a way that will resonate with the executives. I reluctantly agreed, still uncomfortable but somewhat reassured by his offer to help. We scheduled a prep session for 7 p.m. at the office. When I arrived that evening, Kyle was already there, a PowerPoint template open on his laptop. "Let's make this shine," he said, gesturing for me to sit beside him. For the next 3 hours, we crafted the presentation. Or rather, I explained while Kyle translated my technical explanations into business jargon. He was good at it, I had to admit. He knew exactly what would impress the investors. "One last thing," he said as we were wrapping up. "Can you send me the latest build? I want to make sure it's uploaded and ready for the demo tomorrow." I hesitated, then pulled out my thumb drive. "This is the production-ready version, Final V5. He took it with a nod. "Great work today, Emily. Get some rest. Tomorrow's going to be a big day." I left feeling cautiously optimistic. Maybe Kyle and I could actually work together effectively. Maybe Hydra would save Pinnacle Core. Maybe everything would work out. I should have known better. The next morning, I arrived early again, nervous but prepared. The boardroom slowly filled with executives, investors, and a few key engineers. I set up my laptop, ready to present, when Kyle walked in with the CEO. "Emily, slight change of plans," he said quietly. "I'll be presenting today." I stared at him. What? Why? The CEO thinks it would be better coming from someone with more executive presence. "Don't worry, your work will be acknowledged." Before I could protest, the meeting began. I was directed to sit at the far end of the table while Kyle took the position at the front of the room. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, his voice confident. "Over the past several months, I've been leading an initiative to completely rebuild our back-end infrastructure." My blood ran cold. Several months he'd only known about Hydra for one day. Today, I'm excited to present Hydra, our new processing platform that will revolutionize how we serve our clients. I watched in stunned silence as Kyle walked through my presentation, using my slides, my demos, my words, but never once mentioning my name. He spoke about technical challenges I had overcome as if he had been the one writing code until 2 a.m. He described architectural decisions I'd agonized over as if they were his brainchildren. The executives were impressed. The investors were relieved. Questions came, and somehow Kyle managed to answer them just well enough to maintain the illusion that he understood the system at a deep level. When someone asked about the development timeline, Kyle smiled. "I've been architecting this solution since I arrived. The engineering team has been implementing my vision, with some particularly good work from our back-end developers." That was my only acknowledgement, lumped in with the team that hadn't even seen Hydra until 2 days ago. I sat there, fury building inside me, as Kyle accepted congratulations. The CEO clapped him on the back. Investors shook his hand. One even mentioned a possible promotion. After the meeting, I confronted him in the hallway. "What the hell was that?" He had the audacity to look confused. "What do you mean?" "You took credit for my work. All of it." His expression hardened. "Emily, this is how business works. I'm the product manager. Everything that happens on this product is ultimately my responsibility and my achievement. I built Hydra from nothing. I spent months—" "And you're a valuable member of the team," he interrupted. "But let's be realistic. Do you think those investors would have been as impressed if you were stumbling through technical jargon up there? I sold your work. I made it accessible. That's my job. My name wasn't mentioned once." He sighed, as if I were being unreasonable. "Look, I need to get back in there. We can discuss this later." He walked away, leaving me standing alone in the hallway, shaking with rage. I spent the rest of the day in a fog, mechanically completing tasks while replaying the morning's events in my mind. Engineers stopped by my desk to congratulate me privately. They knew the truth, but it was cold comfort. At 4:30 p.m., I received an email from HR requesting a meeting at 5:00. My stomach nodded. This couldn't be good. When I entered the small HR office, I found Melanie, the HR director, and David, the CFO, waiting for me. Their expressions were carefully neutral. "Emily, please sit down," Melanie said, gesturing to the chair across from her desk. I sat, my back rigid. I'm afraid we have some difficult news, she continued. As part of our reorganization following the Hydra project, we're making some structural changes to the engineering department. David leaned forward. Kyle will be taking over as technical director, consolidating the product and engineering divisions. And my role? I asked, already knowing the answer. Melanie's smile was sympathetic but rehearsed. Unfortunately, your position is being eliminated. I stared at them. You're firing me. We prefer to call it a reduction in force due to redundancy. David said, with the new system in place and Kyle's leadership overseeing the technical direction, the system I built, I interrupted. They exchanged glances. Emily, Melanie said gently, we understand you were part of the development team, and your contribution is appreciated. That's why we're offering a generous severance package, 2 months' salary, and extended health benefits. Part of the development team, not the creator, not the architect, not the person who had sacrificed sleep, health, and sanity to save the company. We'll need you to turn in your company devices and sign these papers. David continued, sliding a folder across the desk. Your access will be terminated at the end of today. I looked at the papers, then back at them. And if I don't sign, Melanie's smile tightened. The severance is contingent upon signing the agreement, which includes standard non-disclosure and non-disparagement clauses. Of course it did. Can I review these before signing? Certainly, David said, but we'll need them before you leave today. I took the folder, stood up, and walked out without another word. Back at my desk, I read through the agreement. The language was clear. I couldn't claim ownership of any work done while employed at Pinnacle Core. I couldn't discuss the circumstances of my departure. I couldn't even acknowledge that I had built Hydra. For 2 months' salary, they wanted to erase my contribution entirely. I sat there, the reality of the situation sinking in. They had used me, taken my work, and now they were discarding me. And Kyle would continue to build his career on my creation. Unless a memory surfaced from my late-night coding sessions. A small piece of code I'd embedded in Hydra. It wasn't malicious, not exactly. It was more like insurance. A way to prove ownership if ever needed. I'd created an authentication protocol that, if triggered by a specific date and condition, would redirect all traffic to a placeholder page. It wasn't destructive. It didn't delete data or harm the system. It simply made the service temporarily unavailable until the right credentials were entered. Credentials only I possessed. I hadn't planned to use it. It was just a safeguard, a signature hidden in the architecture. But now, I opened my personal laptop and checked the production build on my thumb drive. Production, Final just V5, zip. The code was there, dormant but intact. The same build I'd given Kyle. I made my decision. I closed the severance agreement unsigned, packed my personal items into a small box, and walked to the HR office. I won't be signing this, I said, returning the folder to Melanie. Her expression shifted from surprise to concern. Emily, I strongly advise you to reconsider. Without the agreement, I don't get severance, I understand. It's not just that, David interjected. The agreement protects you as much as the company. I almost laughed. Does it? They had nothing else to offer me, no leverage. They'd already taken everything they wanted. As I turned to leave, Melanie called after me. Wait, Emily. We have something for you. She handed me a small box from her desk. Inside was a cupcake with "Thank you" written in blue icing. It's tradition, she explained, for departing employees. The absurdity nearly broke me. 2 months of my life, my creation stolen, my career at Pinnacle Core erased, and in return, I got a cupcake. I took it anyway. On my way out, I passed Kyle in the hallway. He was speaking animatedly to a group of developers, gesturing as if explaining some complex technical concept. When he saw me with my box of belongings, he broke away and approached. Emily, I just heard, I'm sorry things worked out this way. The insincerity was breathtaking. Are you? I asked. He lowered his voice. Look, business is business. Nothing personal. But hey, with your skills, you'll land on your feet. I looked at him, really looked at him, and felt a calm certainty settle over me. You're right, Kyle. I will. His relief at my apparent acceptance was palpable. That's the spirit. And hey, good luck out there. I smiled. You too, Kyle. You're going to need it. He frowned slightly, but before he could respond, I walked away, out of the building, and into the warm Austin afternoon. In my car, I placed the box of belongings on the passenger seat and opened the cupcake container. I took a bite chocolate with buttercream frosting. Not bad for a consolation prize. As I ate, I plotted my next moves. I wouldn't trigger the code immediately. That would be too obvious, too easily traced back to my departure. No, I would wait. Let them think they'd won. Let Kyle bask in his stolen glory a little longer. 7 days, that seemed appropriate, a biblical period of time for a reckoning. During that week, I was busy. I registered a new domain, Riley Sharp. Dev, and created a professional portfolio highlighting my skills without mentioning Pinnacle Core. I set up new email addresses, a new GitHub account, and a new LinkedIn profile. All under the name Riley Sharp. It wasn't identity theft. It was a rebirth. Emily Warren, the quiet back-end developer who let others take credit for her work, was gone. Riley Sharp was confident, unapologetic, and very, very good at what she did. I also made another purchase, Pinnacle Legacy. The company had never bothered to secure similar domains to their main Pinnacle Core. A rookie mistake. When the 7th day came, I woke up early, made a strong cup of coffee, and opened my laptop. It was 5:47 a.m., the exact time I had first started building Hydra 2 months ago. I typed a series of commands into a terminal window, authenticating into a hidden API endpoint I'd created. Then I executed the trigger. And waited. At precisely 9:00 a.m., when most of Pinnacle Core's clients on the East Coast would be starting their business day, Hydra activated my protocol. Anyone attempting to access the platform would be redirected to a simple white page with black text. This service is currently unavailable. For system restoration, please contact Riley Sharp. Dev, invoice to follow. I closed my laptop, picked up merge conflict, and scratched behind his ears. Now we wait, I told him. I didn't have to wait long. By 9:15 a.m., my phone was blowing up with texts from former colleagues. What's happening? The system is down. Emily, did you do this? The entire executive team is freaking out. I didn't respond to any of them. By 10:00 a.m., the first email arrived at Riley Sharp's professional address. From support of Pinnacle Core. Subject urgent system restoration. Our payment processing platform is currently experiencing an outage. Your contact information was provided as the person who can resolve this issue. Please respond immediately with details on how to proceed. I waited another hour before responding. From Riley Sharp, Dev Subject Urgent System Restoration. I'd be happy to assist with your system restoration. My consulting fee is $500 with a minimum engagement of 20 hours, payable in advance. I also require administrative access to your entire system and direct communication with your technical team. Please confirm if these terms are acceptable. Regards, Riley Sharp. Their response was quick. From David Fisher at Pinnacle Core. Subject System Restoration. Sharp, this is David Fisher, CFO of Pinnacle Core Solutions. We are facing a critical business emergency affecting our clients nationwide. Your fee structure is acceptable, but we need immediate assistance. Can you start right away? I smiled at the screen. Now the CFO was directly involved. From Riley Sharp, Dev Subject System Restoration. Mr. Fisher. I can begin immediately upon receipt of payment for the minimum engagement, $10,000. I've attached an invoice with payment details. Once payment is confirmed, I'll provide instructions for your technical team. Regards, Riley Sharp. The payment notification from my business account came through 20 minutes later. They hadn't even attempted to negotiate. Now came the real fun. I sent detailed instructions to their technical team, a series of complex procedures that would keep them busy for hours while appearing to troubleshoot the problem. In reality, they were just running in circles, gathering data I already knew, and confirming what I had suspected. No one at Pinnacle Core truly understood how Hydra worked. By the end of the day, their team was exhausted and no closer to resolving the outage. Clients were furious. The company's support lines were overwhelmed. Their stock price had dropped 15% on news of the system failure. That evening, I received another email. From Kyle. Whittaker of Pinnacle Core. Subject Hydra System, Emergency. Riley. David Fisher suggested I contact you directly. I'm the technical director who built the Hydra system. There seems to be some kind of authentication issue redirecting our traffic. I've reviewed the code but can't identify the source. Can we speak directly, Kyle Whittaker? The audacity was almost admirable. Even now, he was claiming to have built Hydra. From Riley Really Sharp. Dev Subject Hydra System. Emergency Mr. Whittaker. If you built the system, you should be able to resolve this issue yourself. The authentication protocol is a standard implementation. However, since you're having difficulties, I'm happy to continue my consulting work. After reviewing the data your team has provided, I've identified the issue. It will require access to your source code repository and deployment systems to resolve. Riley Sharp. His reply was immediate. From Kyle. Whittaker. Pinnacle Core. Subject Hydra System, Emergency. Whatever you need, our CEO is now involved and demanding a resolution by morning. We're losing millions. Name your price. I waited an hour before responding. From Riley Sharp. Dev Subject Hydra System, Emergency. My updated terms: 1. Full access to your GitHub repositories. 2. Administrative credentials for your AWS environment. 3. A consulting retainer of $50,000 for 1 week of service. 4. A signed agreement acknowledging my ownership of any solutions I implement. These terms are non-negotiable given the urgency and complexity of the situation. Riley Sharp. I expected pushback on the fourth item. Instead, I received signed documents within 30 minutes, along with all the access I had requested. They were desperate. With the credentials provided, I logged into their system. Everything was exactly as I had left it. Kyle hadn't changed a single line of my code, probably because he couldn't understand it well enough to modify it safely. I could have fixed the issue immediately. A simple command would have deactivated the protocol, but that wouldn't teach them the lesson they needed to learn. Instead, I spent the night documenting everything. I captured screenshots of the code, complete with my personal commenting style and signature structures. I downloaded commit logs showing when each component had been created, all during the time I was supposedly part of the development team. I archived emails between Kyle and myself where he clearly had no understanding of the system he now claimed to have built. By morning, I had compiled irrefutable evidence that Hydra was my creation. I also discovered something interesting in their panic. They had given me access to much more than I had asked for. I could see internal communications, financial records, customer data, everything. I didn't touch any of it, of course. I wasn't there to steal or destroy. I just wanted what was rightfully mine: recognition and compensation for my work. At 8 a.m., I sent an email to the entire executive team. From Riley Really Sharp, Dev Subject Hydra System Restoration, to the leadership of Pinnacle Core Solutions. I've completed my analysis of your system outage. The issue stems from an embedded authentication protocol that activates under specific conditions. This is not malware or a virus, it's a digital signature commonly used by developers to verify ownership of their work. I can restore your system immediately. But first, we need to discuss the actual authorship of Hydra. I have extensive documentation proving that Hydra was created by Emily Warren, your former employee, not Kyle Whittaker as publicly claimed. I propose a meeting at 10:00 a.m. to discuss terms for system restoration and proper attribution. Riley Sharp. The response was a conference call invitation for 8:30 a.m. They weren't waiting. When I joined the call, I found the CEO, CFO, Kyle, and their legal counsel waiting. The CEO, Michael Brennan, spoke first. Ms. Sharp, we appreciate your assistance with our technical issue, but your allegations about the authorship of our proprietary system are concerning and potentially actionable from a legal standpoint. I remained calm. I understand your position, Mr. Brennan. However, I have extensive evidence that Hydra was created solely by Emily Warren, who was then terminated while Mr. Whitaker claimed credit for her work. That's absurd, Kyle interjected. I led that project from concept to completion. Did you? I asked. Can you explain why the main authentication module contains a base 64 encoded string that, when decoded, reads EW was here? Or why the commit timestamps show development occurring between midnight and 5 a.m. when Emily was known to work not during business hours? Silence. And can you explain, Mr. Whitaker, why you couldn't identify the simple authentication protocol causing your current outage if you truly built the system? The legal counsel spoke up. Ms. Sharp, are you admitting to being involved in our system outage? Not at all, I replied. I'm simply pointing out that the original developer included a signature in their work, a common practice in software development. The fact that this signature has been triggered suggests that the original developer's rights may have been violated. More silence. The CEO cleared his throat. What exactly do you want, Ms. Sharp? 3 things. First, immediate reinstatement of Emily Warren as Chief Technical Officer, with appropriate compensation for her creation of Hydra. Second, public acknowledgement of her role as the sole architect and primary developer of the system. Third, a formal apology for the misattribution of her work. Kyle laughed. This is extortion. No, I countered. This is intellectual property negotiation. The documentation I've gathered would be very interesting to your investors, clients, and the tech community at large. How do you think they would react to learning that Pinnacle Core fired the person who saved their company, then took credit for her work? The CEO and CFO exchanged glances. We need to discuss this privately, the CEO said finally. Can you give us an hour? Your clients have already been without service for nearly 24 hours, I reminded them. But yes, I can give you an hour. I left the call and waited, feeding merge conflict and scrolling through news sites where the Pinnacle Core outage was now being reported. Their stock had dropped another 20% in pre-market trading. 53 minutes later, I received an email. From Michael. Brennan Nasi Pinnacle Core. Com. Subject proposed. Resolution. Ms. Sharp. After careful consideration, we are prepared to offer the following: 1. A consulting position for Emily Warren with full technical authority over the Hydra system. 2. Appropriate compensation for her contributions, details to be negotiated. 3. An internal acknowledgement of her role in developing Hydra. However, we cannot offer the CTO position as that role has been filled, nor can we make a public statement that might damage company reputation. Please advise if these terms are acceptable to Ms. Warren. Michael Brennan, CEO. Pinnacle Core Solutions. It was progress, but not enough. From Riley Really Sharp. Dev subject re-proposed. Resolution. Mr. Brennan, thank you for your offer, but it falls short of addressing the situation appropriately. My revised terms are: 1. Emily Warren will provide consulting services to restore and maintain the Hydra system at a rate of $147,000 for the first month, with ongoing terms to be negotiated. 2. A public LinkedIn post from the company account acknowledging a leadership misunderstanding that incorrectly attributed the development of our Hydra platform. 3. Kyle Whitaker's removal from any technical oversight of the Hydra system. The system will be restored immediately upon written acceptance of these terms. Riley Sharp. The response came quickly. From Michael. Brennan Daziu, Pinnacle Core. Com subject re-proposed resolution, terms accepted. Payment will be processed immediately. Please restore our system as soon as possible. I smiled, then opened my laptop and entered the command to deactivate the protocol. Within minutes, Pinnacle Core's services were back online. Later that day, a payment notification for $147,000 appeared in my business account. The LinkedIn post appeared shortly after, carefully worded but clear enough that anyone in the industry would understand what had happened. And a final email arrived. From Michael. Brennan, Pinnacle Core. Subject ongoing relationship. Ms. Sharp, or should I say, Ms. Warren. Your demonstration of both technical expertise and strategic thinking has been illuminating. Kyle Whitaker has been placed on administrative leave pending an internal investigation. I'd like to discuss a more permanent arrangement for your services, including potential equity in Pinnacle Core. We clearly need your expertise. If you're amenable, I'd appreciate a meeting at your convenience. Michael Brennan, CEO. Pinnacle Core Solutions. I read the email twice, then closed my laptop. Merge Conflict jumped into my lap, purring loudly. What do you think? I asked him. Should we give them another chance? He blinked slowly, then butted his head against my hand. I hadn't decided yet what I would do. The satisfaction of vindication was sweet, but returning to Pinnacle Core, even as a consultant with leverage, held little appeal. They had shown their true colors. That evening, I received another, more interesting email. From Recruitment at Tech Fusion. Subject Senior Architect Position. Confidential Ms. Sharp. Your reputation for innovative back-end solutions has come to our attention. Tech Fusion is seeking a senior architect for our new financial services division, and we believe your expertise would be invaluable. If you're interested in discussing this opportunity, please suggest a time for a confidential conversation. Janet Wong, CTO. Tech Fusion. I smiled, thinking about the journey that had brought me here. Emily Warren had been too quiet, too accommodating, too willing to let others take credit for her brilliance. Riley Sharp would not make the same mistakes. I opened my laptop and began typing a response to Tech Fusion, but stopped halfway through. Why work for someone else again? I had just proved I could bring a multi-million-dollar company to its knees from my living room. I had skills that were clearly in demand, and now I had capital. Instead, I opened a new document and began outlining a business plan. A consulting firm specializing in secure payment processing systems. My systems, built my way, documented thoroughly, credited properly. Looking around my small apartment, I could already envision a different future. Not one where I worked endless hours for someone else's benefit, but one where I built something that was unmistakably mine. This time, I told Merge Conflict as he settled onto my keyboard. I'm not building for anyone else, I'm building for myself. He purred in approval, and I gently moved him aside to continue typing. Emily Warren might have disappeared, but Riley Sharp was just getting started.